Happy New Year. It's Michelle at calmitschaos.com, and it feels really good actually to say Happy New Year. I know I wrote it in my last post. It doesn't feel quite the same when you actually say it. Okay, so I want to try and keep this super short, but I did want to check in because this is actually the first video of the year, so yay! Oopsie, I said this video is going to be super short. Looks like I told a bit of a fib because it's actually gone a bit long. Forgive me. Hope you enjoy it. Bye. And you know, what a glorious time to be in the world. So much is going on, and I guess these are some of the things that I wanted to just touch on briefly today. I just really want to share some things with you. I have so much going on in my head. There's so much that I actually want to write. There is so much that I want to say. But at the same time, sometimes it just feels like I have actually too much that I don't quite know how to articulate it. And I don't know if you are experiencing anything the same. I think the beginning of 2013 has been a different experience for a lot of people, but either way, it's great. You know, even if things aren't feeling so great, they are actually great because they're still making us look into things and consider sort of our path and consider what is our intention for the year and what are we going to set for ourselves and our goals and things like that. I'm not talking about resolutions because let's face it, none of us keep them. I'm talking more about even goal setting. I mean, that doesn't work for everybody, but more about sort of like just, you know, choosing maybe words or pictures or whatever it is that has meaning and significance for you, and sort of like claiming that as your keyword or keywords. That could be imageries or words, could be whatever works. That is what you're going to focus on for the year. A couple of things that I actually wanted to share with you is that I have personally found really fascinating and amazing is I've been on to Deepak Chopra's YouTube channel, and he's actually got this series on there called 30 Days of Intention, I think it's called, and basically it's about Natalie and Iman, and they go on this sort of like journey with Deepak, or he sends them off onto different things. Each video is about maybe 5 or 6 minutes long, but they're just so extraordinarily fascinating. They cover things, you know, from yoga to mastering empathy, death and dying, forgiveness, even orgasm. I mean, it's just, there is so much in there. And I just found that I just couldn't stop watching. Like, I had to watch the next episode and the next episode and the next episode. I found it very informative, beautiful to watch these people's journey. They were both coming from very different parts of their psyche and their life, and as Deepak sort of like talks, it was about what was the intention that they were setting and what did they want to change or improve, or all of that sort of thing. So I'm actually going to include the link in my blog post if you'd like, you know, to go and check it out and see what you think of it, because I actually found it fascinating. Now, the other brief thing that I just want to cover, I just want to share with you about ego. You've probably heard a lot about ego, but I guess I've been taking a lot more notice of it lately. And you're familiar with the film Eat, Pray, Love. I have the book. I've watched the film I don't know how many times. I've read the book I don't know how many times. But one of the things that keeps standing out for me each time I watch the film or each time I read the book, there's a line where, for any of you who don't know anything about Eat, Pray, Love, it's basically about one woman's journey, Elizabeth Gilbert. A lot of things happen in her life, and she basically decides that she's going to take a year out of her life to find herself. So she spends 4 months in Italy, 4 months in India, and then the final 4 months in Bali. And so she goes through this whole process of different things, from, eating lots of wonderful Italian food to living in an ashram in India and having an entire spiritual experience or frustrating experience, and then ending up in Bali and finding lots of resolutions there. So the one thing that keeps coming up in the book and the film, for me, something that I hear quite clearly, and I'm sure you experience it in your own life, because I know I do, and I never know how to answer this question. There's actually a scene in the film where Liz is at a table and she's meeting these people for the first time, and somebody says to her, so Liz, who are you? And she says, I'm a writer. And they say, no, Liz, that's what you do. But who are you? And it's always a question that's always been very, like if somebody says to me, what do I do, or who am I always answer in a similar way. I'm a writer, I work in admin, blah, blah. So I think that's to me, that's an extremely important question. How do we define ourselves, and do we define ourselves by what we do? And we all know that what we do isn't what we're about at all. But that's where it comes back to the ego. And so the other film and book that I absolutely adore and keep revisiting is The Shift by Dr. Wayne Dyer. He has a film with the same name. It was originally called From Ambition to Meaning. And basically, I just want to share, I'm just going to read a little excerpt from his book, because this is about the ego. But I'd just like to share it with you. So he says here, it's basically about reinforcing that performing is bad. It simply teaches the aspiring human to believe the ego's personalized message of you are what you do, which is blatantly false. You are not what you do. If you never did a thing in your entire life, you'd still be a spiritual being having a human experience rather than the other way around. Ego craves confirmation of our value through indicators. Spirit operates on a totally different basis. Home is beyond ego, as the spiritual entity known as Emmanuel says. Your mind does not know the way. Your heart has already been there, and your soul has never left it. Welcome home. Our early teaching convinces us that who we are is defined by our accomplishments. Our educational system emphasizes accomplishment, reinforcing the idea even more. No gold star is easily interpreted as no value as a person. So when we fail a test, our sense of self is a feeling of failure, and such ego-strengthening notions become our reality. From preschool through graduate school, the messages are similar. We're defined by how well we do. If we don't do well, we're labelled underachievers. The concept of ambition as an indicator of how much worth we have, both in the eyes of our fellow humans and even in the mind of God, is cemented firmly into our consciousness. These ideas carry over into every aspect of our developing ego. The popular saying, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing, makes losers out of 50% of competitors, since every competition that has a winner must also have a loser. In all areas of life, whatever we do tends to define our worth. The artist whose portfolio is judged inferior to another's often feels a loss of value as a human being. The singer who doesn't make it to #1 in some category feels that he or she is worth less. So I just want to leave you on that note because I personally find this whole concept of ego very interesting, and this particular book and movie, which I would highly recommend, is basically about going from ambition to meaning, which is going he talks about that spiritual connectedness, and then going from the morning of your life to the afternoon of your life, which basically is about letting go of the ego. It's a wonderful film and also a wonderful book, and it actually explains or shows what that whole ego concept is. I mean, I've heard it bandied around 1,000 times. I've read books on it, releasing the ego. You're working out of your ego. If you behave in this manner, you're working out of your ego. You must let it go. The beautiful thing that I found about his movie in particular, because the way it's done, it's sort of like semi-doco, semi-drama, it really shows how working out of the ego is very different, and how you can have a very different outcome in your life if you let that go. And of course it's very difficult because we are raised from day dot of being defined about how well we do in school, arts, education. I think I've mentioned it to you before in one of my other blog posts that, you know, I've always had limited beliefs around education because I didn't have one. That's not true. I didn't have the education that I wanted. So for many years I went around believing that I couldn't possibly be good enough, and that I couldn't possibly help or contribute to society unless I had that education. So I'm going to leave you with those thoughts and those ideas. Let me know what you think of the Deepak Chopra 30 Days of Intent with Natalie and Aman, if you do like it. If you are familiar with this book or film, if you've seen it or you do go and see it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then obviously if you have some beautiful ways of dealing with the ego and letting it go, and how it's impacted in your life, I'd be really, really interested in hearing about that as well. So if you found this post interesting, please do share, do tweet, Facebook, all that sort of thing, send it to a friend. But please, as always, love to hear your thoughts, because I find these subjects so fascinating. And, you know, we can read the words, but it's actually believing it and defining ourselves. Like, how do we define ourselves? So I'm going to leave you with that, and I will see you in the next video, and have a beautiful week. And so until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye.